Little black book. You know what time it is. 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 Hey guys, and welcome to Little Black Book. You know what time it is. We're back with another one. We're going to talk about Boris's tweets around taking down Winston Churchill's statue. It's going to get interesting real quick. We're also going to talk about a little bit about the history of UK and their cover-up and being exposed. Yes, the UK has a horrible history of racism. I wonder. Anyway, if you're new to the channel, make sure you like, share, subscribe. Click on that bell button for the notification of the uploads. And for those of you returnees, you got the minerals. You got the minerals. Alright, cool. So, there were some tweets here by Boris Johnson around, obviously, recent events. I'm going to read them out, get them on to you guys so you can actually have a hear of it. It says, the statue of Winston Churchill in Parliament Square is a permanent reminder of his achievements in saving this country and the whole of Europe from a fascist and racist tyranny. 1 out of 8. Now, first of all, let's stop there. Winston Churchill, yes, indeed, did stop a fascist. But being a fascist himself also then caused millions of people to die. Oh. So it's convenient that you're taking a stance against someone like Hitler, who's a fool guy, but don't want to talk about the atrocities that were done by the UK government and the UK parliamentary forces, right? Because it's easy to talk about somebody else's sin, but not your own. And so the Bible tells us very, very, very clearly, what is done in darkness shall come to light. I'm going to continue. It says, it is absurd and shameful that this national monument should today be at risk of violent attack by violent protesters. Yes, he sometimes expressed opinions that were and are acceptable to us today, but he was a hero. He fully deserves his moral. Now, first of all, Boris needs to check himself and not forget that, my brother, you were saying some racial slurs yourself, so no wonder you defend him. This is the country we live in 2020, where your president in America and your prime minister in UK can say racial slurs and get away with it, or sexist comments and get away with it. You understand? We're in 2020 and yet we're still facing the repercussions of what we call white supremacy that allows for a white privileged male to say some things which are absolutely incorrect, racial, okay, discriminatory, okay, racist if you want to call it that, and call it, I was just saying something that may have been slightly off the scale, slightly unacceptable. That's what you're labeling Winston Churchill as. But let me tell you something, it went further than that. When 3 million people can die in India because of a famine that UK were also holding India hostage with. Wow. Wow. Next thing he says, we cannot now try to edit or censor our past. Pause. You already have. Because if you want to be truthful about what you've done, bring it all to the forefront. Bring all the tapes, bring all the notepads, bring all the letters that have been sent by people. Bring out the whole history of your colonization and the brutality of it. Come and bring out all the stories of how you killed us in Africa, right? And brought us over to plantation fields in Jamaica, brought us to plantation fields in the US. We want to talk about it. Talk about where the Dutch came in, the Portuguese came in, the Spanish people came in. Obviously, they're not part of you guys, obviously, right? But all of you were part of it. All of you are part of this disgusting, horrible history. And you're trying to mask it by saying, oh, you know, we can't try and edit or censor our past. Do you teach this in history? Do you teach the colonization in fullness of your history? No. And there's a reason. You don't want to tell that part of the story. Alright, cool. He says, we cannot pretend to have a different history. The statues in our cities and towns were put up by previous generations. They had different perspectives, different understandings of right and wrong, but those statues teach us about our past and all the faults. To tear them down would be a lie about our history and impoverish the education of generations to come. His statues don't teach nobody nothing. They only tell people of what goodness that person has done for a particular reason why he was put up as a statue. It doesn't tell us a full story. Now, if you were going to put the full story on there, which people are starting to come up to, that's why the things are getting torn down. When you tell me that Hitler killed so many people, right, but don't tell me about Leopold, when you don't tell me about Winston Churchill, right, and you tell us about Hitler instead, you're not telling the full story and you're being intently ingenuous so that you don't look bad. So don't tell me that, you know, it's about teaching me the right of history when you don't tell the full history. He says, As for the planned demonstrations, we all understand the legitimate feelings of outrage at what happened in Minnesota and legitimate desire to protest against discrimination. Whatever progress this country has made in fighting racism, it has been huge. We all recognize that there's much work to do, but it's clear that the protests have been sadly hijacked by extremists intent on violence. The attacks on the police and indiscriminate acts of violence which we have witnessed over the last week are intolerable and they are abhorrent. The only responsible course of action is to stay away from these protests. Boris, let me tell you something, Boris. I get what you're saying about some of the protests. It's been a bit wild, isn't it? Yeah, that's how I feel about how you guys entered them onto our country and took us from where we were. Have you apologized for that? Have we got reparations for that yet? Oh, but you managed to pay reparations for the slave owners. But you haven't paid no reparation for Africa yet. For when you stole the slaves from their home country. When you tore them from their families. When you beat them, killed them, treat them like less than property. Because some of your property gets treated better. Treat them better than dogs. You treat them like they were ants underneath your shoe. So don't tell me, okay, about how protesting is meant to go. Although I don't agree with protesting not going to go mad. But don't tell us about that. Because you're not going to come... You see, if you can't be strong and tell us the full history of your history, I don't want to hear your voice. Because you're now trying to dictate what history we have now. And the people are angry. I keep saying this. When you don't give people justice, Absalom comes. And Absalom comes with a sword to kill. He don't care about anything else apart from a swift justice, which involves blood. And we don't want to see that. So what are UK doing? Help take down the statues as one aspect. Now let's start teaching these history in school. Let me tell you something about history. When you tell someone about the history of stuff, they become wise. And because they become wise, the person who's an oppressor then automatically becomes fearful. Because they now know the person has knowledge. Why do you think they're the slaves who are not allowed to be taught and how to read or write? Why do you think there was punishment for any slave that was, at the time when it first started, was to be punished for being able to read and write? It's because they don't want you to get smart, Negro. They don't want you to get smart. No, if you stay dumb so we can control you, right? Slavery hasn't ended. It's just changed. It's just changed the way they enslave people. Now they enslave you through the mind. We don't want you to come smart. If you get smart, you can come out of your cage, right? You can come out of your mental chains. So understand that, listen, the history is brutal, but tell it all. Don't use Hitler as an excuse as to why he's the only evil person in the world. When your British colony, your existence, your mere fact that you have other colonies around the world. You know, we talk about the Queen being revered, but the whole point is this. Your whole kingdom is built upon killing people. It is built upon the blood and the bones of individuals. We can't celebrate that. That's not a thing to celebrate and say the kingdom is great United Kingdom. Well, don't go back to your country. Well, if I went back to my country, you'd still come and collect me from there. If I went back to Ghana now, you'd come and you'd collect us from there. If we were all going back to our home countries, you'd come and collect us from there. Why? You've got the Pharaoh syndrome. The Pharaoh syndrome says, even though I can let you go, I don't want to let you go. Why? Because you're under my duress. You're under my control. So long as I control you, I'm okay. But don't give them their own space. Don't let them go back to their God. No, don't let them go back to their land. No. Because they do that, they're going to get smart. And they might come after us. We don't. We just want to live a peaceful life. We want to be free from the oppression. You understand? We don't want heads, we want equality. And yet, we won't get it. Because y'all don't want to tell the truth. You see, the truth, the Bible says, will set you free. When you tell the truth, things can be put into proper order. Anyway, guys, that's Boris Johnson for you. It's mad. In fact, I won't even just read a little part of an article. This is what is National Archives. This is from the Guardian. DG was a code word to indicate papers were for British officers of European descent only, right? The full extent of destruction of Britain's colonial government records during the retreat from empire was disclosed on Thursday with a declassification of a small part of the Foreign Office vast secret archive. 50-year-old documents that finally been transferred to the National Archive show the bonfires were built behind diplomatic missions across the globe as they purge the codenamed Operation Legacy, accompanied the handover of each colony. The declassified documents include copies of an instruction issued in 1961 by Ian MacLeod, Colonial Secretary, that post-independent governments should not be handed any material that might embarrass Her Majesty, the government, that could embarrass members of the police, military force, public servants, or police informers, that might betray intelligence sources, or that might be used unethically by ministers in a successor government. Deep it. There are articles out there that they don't want us to know about. Do you know what's funny? Do you know what's really funny? It's arrogant to not delete it, to not completely whitewash all the evidence, right? And to have a back safe that every so often amount of years, things get declassified. Have you noticed that also in the US, same thing happens? That after a certain amount of years, things get declassified. And I look at it and I go, it's a wonder. And it's a marvelous sight that God works in the most weirdest ways. Now, someone might not understand what I'm saying. What I'm saying is this. For them to keep the archives, they're meant to keep these archives that get declassified, after a certain amount of years. Lets you know when the Bible says things that are done in the dark, they shall come to what? Light. You cannot suppress the truth. Because the truth is God himself. And so long as God is on the earth, truth can never be suppressed. You can hide all you want to hide it. Eventually it's going to come out and it's going to expose you. So look, that's what we're seeing now. You see the turnover now. We're seeing a whole shift now. Things are starting to come out that would not ordinarily would have been told to us. We found out in 2015 that the Treasury had finally paid off the slave owners. All of it is timing. Timing. The Lord knows how to bring things at the right time. My oh my. Listen, guys, I'm going to leave it there and just let you know. We'll do another video on it around that and we'll talk about what happened there. But yeah, guys, make sure you stay locked, stay loaded and enjoy the rest of our videos as well. Appreciate you guys. Stay locked. Love.